Our next session is dam harmonization, getting to the source of truth. I'm very excited for this session because we always talk about a single source of truth. And our guest, the speaker this session is Amy Davis, and she's going to help us find how to do that. So it's always good to have sessions on how to do. She has a case study demonstrating that, yes, it is possible to have one unified dam with only approved assets aligned to the enterprise taxonomy. Sounds like a great use case. So, Amy, I'm going to turn it over to you. Take it away.
Great. Thank you, John. Thanks, everybody, for joining this session. I'm really excited to present to you today. I'm just going to dive in, make sure that we are sticking to time. So first, a little bit about my company. I work for Medtronic. I'm the Dam and Taxonomy Manager for the company. If you're not familiar with us, it's a pretty large company. We have 95,000 employees across the entire globe. We support patients and healthcare professionals in 150 countries. We treat over 70 health conditions, and we have served over 74 million different patients with the healthcare technology that we provide. Also, a little bit of history, if you're not familiar, the man on the right-hand side is Earl Bakken, our founder, who actually invented the first battery-operated pacemaker. And a year later, in 1960, he helped to produce the first implantable pacemaker. So I'm really proud and honored to work for this amazing company that has this amazing mission and has really been a pioneer in the healthcare technology area. But we're here to talk about the dam, so let's dive into that. I'm really going to kind of walk you through, like John said, a bit of a use case study and really what I inherited when I joined the company. This is a bit of a snapshot by the numbers in 2020. When I first joined, the dam that I inherited had a little over 400,000 assets as a part of that system. We had over 350 authors, 11 different siloed dam directories. I heard from the first session when Jared was talking and even saw some comments in the chat about silos. I've lived and breathed those. I feel that the pain that it can be. And our dam was supporting over 15 different channels within the MarTech stack. So really what I inherited, frankly, was not much to work with. We had a content management system that I came into and that my team that I joined was managing, and a part of that was a dam. So when you think about maybe building a house from the ground up, frankly, I inherited the roof of the house and nothing else. It was a big question mark in terms of what the rest of that dam was going to look like. And I guess in a way, it was sort of an amazing opportunity that I was given to build it from the ground up. So I'm really going to walk you through that in this presentation, how we built the house. But really, what I inherited with that roof was an ungoverned mess. Our stakeholders across the organization were storing and managing their assets in a whole bunch of different varieties of ways with different tools and applications. Everyone had their siloed systems. Nobody was talking to each other. And frankly, the company was wasting resources looking for, or worse, recreating the assets that were already in existence. They just didn't know or didn't bother to look. The content management system and the team that I came into was managing the CMS as a decentralized publishing model, which means that we aren't the ones that are necessarily going in and building the things and uploading the things. We're really training everyone else, all of our stakeholders that we support, on how to use the content management system. And a part of that was the dam. But it really came without any governance. The team that I joined did a good job of just getting something in place, but I was really hired on to define the rest of it. So when I came on, there were inconsistent folder structures across those 11 directories, inconsistent file names. The one I cringe about the most is no metadata requirements whatsoever, and really no definition as to who was responsible for what. So my first step was really to create kind of that vision statement, the objective of where we wanted to go. And as difficult as it may sound, what we really felt compelled to do was to create a unified dam, to harmonize things and ensure, as John said, that all of our approved digital assets were stored there. That was another piece that I first partnered with our IT partners on, is really what are we going to allow in the dam? And we quickly decided it was going to be finished assets, those things that were finished and approved, as well as the source files that go with them, but nothing that was sort of a work in progress or a draft or a bunch of raw footage, this wasn't the place for that. This was really just going to be the finished asset repository. The other piece was that we also inherited a front-end search channel, I guess I'll call it, that allowed people to search and share assets. But again, being in this siloed structure, it was really built and being used only by one of our business portfolios. So I'll get into that in a little bit too. To unify the dam, the first thing we had to do was unify ourselves. And that's really where I came into play and where I defined my role. So I had the roof. The very first thing that I did was I built the foundation and became the product owner of the dam environment. What that really meant was I was the end-to-end owner of the entire dam product. So we created that vision statement. I built an extensive roadmap. How are we going to get to that end state of that unified and harmonized dam? How are we going to ensure that people are using the front-end search channel that is available, and really building out those goals? Our team follows an agile mindset. So I'm just one of many product owners. I work with a lot of other people that own space in product ownership of content strategy, in our search engine, in our ontology engine, in the environment within our content management system that creates the websites. We have amazing development teams that we partner with, as well as our IT partners. And really, as a collective group, we build out the backlog of all of those enhancements and new features that we want for each of those individual products. And so there's a whole extensive part of my roadmap of how we can build out the dam to make it bigger and better, simpler for the people that are using it. And then the other key part of that is really understanding the users across the organization and what they need. So regularly engaging with them and looking back at our roadmap on a regular basis to make sure that we're enhancing the way that they want us to. And based on, again, the first session that Jared shared with trends, keeping up with trends and what are some things that we can do to enhance the environment. At the end of the day, what might be slightly different from how we manage things to maybe how you manage things, I just have a small team. We aren't just sitting at the ready waiting to upload assets for our stakeholders and ensuring that everything is just right. We don't manage and own the assets. We own the environment where the assets are managed, which is really a big distinction. So again, our job is more to train and educate the stakeholders that are actually using the dam to make sure that they're following all of our best practices and our run rules. So we had our product ownership foundation built out. I kind of brought myself forward to the company as the face and the voice, sort of, if you will, the new sheriff in town, to say that, you know, there's somebody that's actually going to be managing the dam, and I need your partnership and your buy-in to make it a bigger and better place that we can all work and leverage and share. And with that, really, we had to define the governance. So the first thing that I did was bring together a council, and then we worked together to build out that governance. So our Dam Governance Council is made up of cross-functional stakeholders from our different business portfolios, all of the regions, as well as channel owners from those channels that actually are leveraging assets in the dam. I really went out to build a relationship with all of these people and introduce myself to them, and then bring everybody together with seats at the table so that we could start talking to each other. That was the biggest thing about being a siloed organization. Everybody felt like they were sort of their own special snowflake with their own special needs. But once we got everybody talking to each other, found out that a lot of the common needs and demands that they had were actually not so different. And that's really where I came in at the enterprise level to say, I want to understand all of these individual needs, but how can I then take that and turn it into more of an enterprise opportunity and an enhancement that everybody can leverage? And it found out that actually it wasn't that hard to bring everybody together. They appreciated having that sounding board. So they helped to define the strategies as well as the governance and the procedures on how to own that and work within that environment. I also really leverage them to be the key voices in suggesting enhancement ideas because they know their businesses better than I do. Again, I'm up at the enterprise level, and they're sort of, if you will, the ears to the ground. They work with their partners and can come forward and say, this is a challenge in our business area. This is a need that we have in managing the legal and regulatory pieces that we all within this healthcare industry have to follow. As well as a big part of that is really leveraging them to help us drive adoption for the dam. Again, I came in as sort of a new face. Everybody was doing their own thing. There were even siloed systems outside of this dam. And so really building those partnerships and encouraging those people within the governance council to start talking to their stakeholders and spreading the word that our dam is sort of going to be the place that we want everything to be. And really from a governance standpoint, as you saw from the ungoverned mess, we had a whole wide landscape that we could define. And that we needed to define. It was really important. So we actually worked as a collective group, me being the owner of it, but creating a governance document that we still use to this day. We review it on a regular basis. It's really our run rules to meet all those different regulations and define how the dam environment is going to be managed. So all of that is based on best practices that I hear from many of you when I attend these sort of events and webinars, but also really understanding our legal and regulatory needs that we have from being a healthcare technology company. So we had the governance sort of sorted out. And because we were coming in and sort of, like I said, a bit of a new sheriff in town, change management is a critical piece of everything that I do because everyone had their way of doing things. And I was really coming in and changing it, moving their cheese, if you remember that old, phrase. So change management was really an important part of it because change is stressful and personal for every single one of us. Everybody handles change in slightly different ways. So I spent a lot of time actually defining a strategy, building out different work streams and procedures for how we would work to harmonize the dam, not to just do it in one big fell swoop that felt very, again, personal or too much for people to embrace. So thinking strategically on how are we going to help people embrace that change, which requires a little bit of hand-holding. A big part of that that my team and I do is really around building advocacy. We spend a lot of time doing that. The Governance Council is a big part of that. Working with them as our key stakeholders, but then also having them help us identify key stakeholder groups that we had to go and socialize to. I probably went and met and presented to about more than 20 different groups across the organization around where we were going to harmonize the dam to get their buy-in, because nothing would have been successful if we had just gone in charging and saying, this is happening, whether you like it or not. It was really about building those relationships and explaining why we were making those changes, why we were putting this governance into place, why it would be beneficial for them, so that we could get that immediate buy-in and help them along kind of that change curve. It's another way that we were able to gather feedback on their needs and challenges and hear directly from them. And then again, partnering with the channel owners, many of them are part of our governance council, but there were plenty more because we don't own those. I'm not the product owner of everything, just the dam. So we really needed their buy-in as well to adapt their own roadmaps. A lot of their channels are built on code or integrations, and all of that needed to be timed out and thought of as dependencies so that when we went to launch the harmonized dam with our harmonized metadata, that they actually were actively also working on their end to point to our harmonized dam and leverage our harmonized metadata. So it was a real, kind of balance between the two and true partnerships. So we have the first floor of the house, we have the foundation, and then we really, with the initiative of the harmonized dam, kind of built it into 3 different key work streams. And those were roles and permissions within the dam, metadata management, and workflows. So with roles and permissions, again, when I joined this team, we had the content management system. And on one side of it, there's sort of where we're managing our websites and other digital channels. And then on the other side is the dam, and then a couple of other key pieces and parts that make up that system. And everything was really treated exactly the same when I came on board. All of the roles and permissions were, if you go through our trainings and you pass everything, we give you access. You get access to everything. And you can do whatever you want to for the most part. And as I was socializing the harmonized dam, we quickly realized there were plenty of stakeholder groups that were really just looking for a place to securely and safely store their digital assets. They had no intention of building out a website experience. And so they didn't need all of that access. And frankly, from a risk mitigation, we didn't want them to have that access either. So we sat down and we really reimagined all of our user groups as well and spent a significant work stream thinking about that. We thought about and plotted out all of the different user actions that a DAM author would take, from uploading their assets to entering the metadata to publishing their assets, and then later on in the life cycle of the asset, expiring those assets and making sure that that's managed correctly. So what we did was we went from 200 different fairly granular user groups, again, those special snowflakes and silos, to just 24, which at the end of the day also gives my team a chance to have an easier time managing all of that access, as well as our IT teams, who at the end of the day are really owning the entire platform. And the great news about that is that the rest of the content management system partners that I have, the product owners, I shared out our approach, and they have ended up adopting a very similar approach to how they're managing their user groups as well. So it's really condensed things down. And then by the time we launched the Harmonized DAM, we had to reassign all of those users, which gave us a great opportunity to actually audit those 350 plus authors that we had sitting in the system and really say, does this person are they really working in the DAM, or did they get access 5 years ago? And obviously with large organizations, with any organization, you're going to have reorganizations, you're going to have people coming and going, moving into different roles. So it gave us a chance to audit that. And we ended up reassigning over 250 users to match those 24 different groups. And part of that was really bringing a lot of things that our authors were able to do closer to the vest for my team to manage. So for example, we don't allow our authors to create new folders in the DAM. Really because we spent a lot of time and energy when we were harmonizing everything, working with our global taxonomist, who's on my team, as well as all of our stakeholders to understand the needs that they had. And we built out a structure that we felt very strongly would meet everybody's needs. Obviously, if somebody comes to us and says there's a specific folder that they might need, we'll assess that, try to understand the business reasoning before it. And there have been times when we've created a new folder, but we really ended up taking that onus on ourselves, as well as not allowing people to delete assets in the DAM as well. Kind of tied to what Jared was saying in the first session that I attended, we don't have a great way right now of tracking all of the places where that asset is being used. And so for somebody in a siloed operating unit within Medtronic to say, oh, we're no longer using this for our marketing campaign, so we can just get rid of it. They don't necessarily have the lens to know that it's being used on a social post or on this web page, and they might not take the time to look at that. Whereas, again, we're supporting the entire enterprise. So we take the time to find those needles in a haystack and understand the broader scope as much as we can anyway, of the usage of that asset before we just go and, remove it from the DAM. The other big piece that we spent a lot of time on, especially early on with our governance team, was metadata management. Like I said, it's cringing to say it, but we really had no metadata requirements whatsoever when I joined the team. So we spent a lot of time looking at and understanding the different file types that our stakeholder groups were uploading, as well as understanding within our content management system what file types are allowed, but then took it a step further and said, great that they allow WAV files, but do we really want people to upload WAV files? We decided our recommended video file type is an MP4. And so we just kind of stuck to that standard within our governance and communicated that across to our stakeholders. Then we took it a step further, really. And once we identified all those different file types, we looked at our metadata schemas within the DAM and said, what fields are really needed by those file types? They're not all the same. So we actually have different schemas for different file type groups. We have different metadata to meet the needs of imagery, as opposed to documents, as opposed to our videos, as opposed to source files. Some of those key features like title, description, there's some internal tagging that we require that is universal across all those file types. But we also wanted to remove sort of the garbage, if you will, so that when an author goes to fill in metadata, which we hear from everybody, and you probably do too, that it takes a lot of work. And it's just, why do I have to do this? It just takes so much time. But it's so critically important. We all appreciate that. So we wanted to remove any sort of noise from the metadata that they really didn't need to fill in for that asset type that they were uploading. And then we took it a step further from there and really looked at, now that we have these schemas, which of these fields need to be required? Not all of them do. Many of our fields are optional, but that's where the education comes into play. And we spend a lot of time explaining to our stakeholders, you need to fill in these required fields, and this is why. But also consider filling in the optional metadata fields, and this is why. The other piece that we did to really sort of try to take as much onus as we could from the author so that it would cut time for them, as well as just ensuring that it's being filled in the way that we really want it to. There are certain rules that we set up within the DAM so that when an author would go and upload, let's say, a product brochure into our public folder structure, there are a couple of fields that are automatically filled in at the time of the upload based on the rules that we set up because of the location where they put it in. If somebody puts a product brochure in our public facing folder structure, we're going to make that assumption that it's meant for public consumption. So one of our metadata fields is this for internal or external use? And that's one required field that our authors don't have to fill in. It's automatically filled in for them so that when they go to enter in the rest of their metadata, that external tag is already there. I know we have other opportunities actually to look at our schemas and maybe fill in more of that automatically and write some of those rules. That's something, as we're working forward now that we have the Harmonized DAM launch, that we want to do, again, making it as simple and as intuitive as possible for our authors that are working in the DAM. And then the last piece of kind of the work streams is really around the workflows. So once again, we kind of customized and rebuilt workflows. We had plenty of them out of the box from the DAM and from our content management system. One being one-step publishing, so that really somebody can just upload something, fill in their metadata, and then there's checks and balances built into that workflow to make sure that everything is filled in, that there's not a bad file name, and as long as they're kind of following our governance and our rules, it's almost instantaneous publishing. It happens, in almost immediately once they hit that workflow and submit it. And again, it's really removing us as the middle people from the publishing process. So it's taking time, valuable time from my team to focus on other things like enhancements and a lot of the cleanup effort that we're doing right now. So we almost have the entire house built, which is really exciting. A big piece of that change management. And again, how we're managing the DAM, that we're not the ones that are doing the uploading, we're managing the environment. A big piece of that is having a solid communication plan and a solid training plan. That's where we spend a lot of our time and energy, actually. And then also making sure that people are aware of and adopting that searchable channel on the front-facing side that only one of our business portfolios was using. We've partnered with those people and we've started to make it enterprise-wide to make sure that everybody can leverage that, so that if they don't have access to the DAM directly and haven't gone through the training, they're not one of our authors, marketers still need to find those assets and be able to share them with their creative partners or with their leaders. So really adopting that search channel as that front-facing view of the DAM if you're not actually working within the DAM itself. So we have 3 different key ways that we've defined to train our stakeholders and make sure that they're aware of how to use the DAM and why it's important to follow the governance that we've taken a lot of time and energy to put in place. The first is Medtronic, of course, has a learning management system. So we actually have created new author videos for the learning management system where they have knowledge checks and have to officially go through kind of, the official kind of training module. It really is a high-level overview of the DAM because they haven't really had access to work in it yet. It gives you an overview of the rules and the how-tos. And really when we launched the Harmonized DAM, because everything was changing for the most part, it was a new folder structure, new roles and permissions that they had, new workflows they had to get accustomed to. We actually made these first couple of new author videos mandatory for everyone that had been working in the DAM and who still had access to it so that they understood the change. We kind of prefaced it as sort of forget everything you know and commit to it with an open mind and learn, the new, easier, better, simpler way to do things. And we really promoted the benefits of these workflows and why we were owning certain things and giving them ownness of other things. We really, hyped that up. The next piece is that within our content management system, we actually have a training hub where all of our more deep dive kind of step-by-step instructions are. It's available 24/7 for all of our global partners around the world, so that if someone is trying to upload a document in Japan while I'm sleeping, they don't have to wait to hear from me to explain something. Ideally, this is the go-to hub where they can go and find that answer to a lot of the common kind of uploading and asset management questions that come up. And then finally, Medtronic has an internal social channel. So we created a channel and a community there. It has almost 500 members. Really, when somebody goes through that new author training, as a part of their access, we automatically add them to that community, because this is really the main place where we share on a regular basis tips, tricks, reminders. If we have a new enhancement that we are launching, let's say, even from a governance standpoint, an existing optional metadata field, over the course of time and through conversations with our partners and our governance council, we might decide to make it a required field. That has happened actually on more than one occasion. So this is really where we'll promote that new governance that people need to be made aware of. And then we'll go into the training website and make sure that it's all up to date as well. And finally, from a communication standpoint, with the training, they kind of go hand in hand. We manage within our roadmap that we built of how we're going to get to where we want to go. A part of that is an editorial calendar. And we actually kind of hold ourselves accountable for trying to post on a regular basis, 3 a month. So it kind of lets us kind of flex our creative muscles, and we try to make the content engaging and fun. We leverage polls. We are planning to do some knowledge checks every once in a while, just to make sure people are still kind of remembering the run rules and the governance, and that they're aware of those things. So we leverage that quite often, especially for some of those bigger announcements that we have around the dam that everybody needs to be made aware of. And that community isn't just our dam authors. It's the marketers, marketing leadership. It's our development teams. It's our IT partners. So it's a broad community of creative partners who are actually creating the collateral. And we strategically brought people into that community from all of those different aspects, knowing that at some point in time, they're going to need to know something about the dam or be aware of it. And as well, that's really a part of building that advocacy that I talked about earlier. We want people to be bought in that this is the place to go, and that this is the dam where they should be migrating all of their assets and storing things, because we've ideally and have actually gotten the feedback that we've proven that it's a safe and secure place, that we've put all this governance in place so that we're properly managing metadata, we're properly managing approvals from the approval systems of record, and managing expiration dates correctly. We have all these checks and balances that we've enhanced and built into the system to make sure that we're governing things correctly and that the life cycle of all of our assets are being managed appropriately. So this is a lot of effort over the last few years. It certainly hasn't been a sprint. It is a marathon, and that marathon is still going. There's more to the journey. So this year, we launched that Harmonized Dam last year with really good feedback. We're still getting people to adopt it. And a part of that this year that my team is focused on is really working with our partners to actively move all the relevant and approved assets from those legacy directories into the Harmonized Dam. And the other great thing about that is, similar to the roles and permissions, it's given us an opportunity to clean up bad file names, replace some missing metadata, retire old directories. And then we're continuing to think about how to train people. So we're working on really deep diving into our metadata fields, and not just talking about it at a high level, but explaining why you should fill in your metadata field with this and how you would leverage that, even based on the different operating units. And then continuing to socialize to all of our stakeholders. Like I said, we're a large company, so we're constantly reorganizing. There's new people coming and going. So it's a constant process to bring people into the fold and make sure that they're aware of the dam and what we offer. So these were the numbers back in 2020, as you saw. And after we worked diligently to harmonize, this is kind of the landscape right now as we ran some new numbers. Obviously, asset files are growing. We have over 650,000. We did bring down our authors with that audit to around 250. And I would easily argue that we probably could have fewer authors than that by doing another audit and really talking to people. The one I'm most proud of, though, really is bringing those 11 siloed directories down to 2 directories. We've worked really hard to do that, really worked hard with all of the stakeholders across the organization to get them bought in to embracing this harmonized structure that's working for everybody. And then the reason why the channel number went down from about, I think it was 15 plus or 11 plus to just 8 is that there's other areas of the organization that are working to harmonize as well. So, for example, our sales enablement channels, we had 4 different platforms or systems that were being used for different field reps around the globe. And now they're working to bring everybody onto one common platform. And that platform and those partners are amazing and have worked directly with us to make sure that the assets that are being uploaded to those that sales platform are being pulled from the harmonized DAM, as well as leveraging our harmonized taxonomies and all those metadata points too. So we keep working to bring everybody together and talk as one team and moving in one common direction, which has been really great. So that's kind of the scope of everything. I really appreciate the time, and we can open it up to Q&A.
Wow. Thank you, Amy. That was a great discussion, a great use case. I'm still processing a lot of it, but we do have one question, real
Yeah.
quick. Where are you keeping your work in progress assets, and how are those assets being managed?
So that's a great question. It's something that in my roadmap, I want to, in the near future, really partner with our different creative teams across the organization. Again, I'm sure many of you can appreciate this. Some people work with agencies outside of Medtronic. Some people actually have a creative team within their team. So everybody is sort of storing those work in progress files in a variety of different places. So we haven't necessarily solved for that. I would argue in some cases, maybe I'm not the one to completely solve it. Our IT partners, who are amazing, really will kind of be leading that charge. But I've heard from different webinars that I've attended, having a MAM system. And I think that's a viable option for us that I would like to look into and explore, and maybe even network and partner with some of you that have something like that in place. To build out, the scope of my team, even from just kind of being the DAM administrators and owning this environment. Where can we go next? And that is absolutely one of those spaces. How can we wrangle in and bring all the different creative assets and creative partners together to start working in a common space for that work in progress set as well?
Yeah, that is a tough question and a tough aspect of what you're doing. I appreciate the fact that you're trying to build out that dream of everyone having an Uber dam, the one dam that solves everything. The reality is, especially in large organizations, that you just can't ever quite get there. But
Yeah,
I'm really impressed with how you've set up the governance, just an organization that can do that. But I have one question for you. So
absolutely.
in the governance, we by the way, we are in sort of a network break right now. I'm just going to ask you one more question. We
Mhm.
have another session starting up at the top of the hour, so you can
Yes.
stay with us if you'd like, or you can go out to the networking and meet some of the other attendees if you'd like. But just one quick question. On the governance side, you have all of these multiple stakeholders, many different silos of where your data, information, applications are all stored and stuff. What would you say is the key or the major stakeholder that allowed you to sort of establish that overarching governance team to look at the structure and to make things work more smoothly?
Um, I'll give major credit to our one of our business portfolios. I think we can all make those damn jokes about our roles forever. They were farther along in their damn journey than even myself coming in at the enterprise level. They had certain workflows in place. They're the ones that were owning that front end search channel that I mentioned. So they were one of the first groups that I introduced myself to and brought into the fold to make sure that they actually weren't going to launch something or do something in the dam that they wouldn't realize would impact everybody else without, again, proper change management, without proper communication, that they would just go and launch something that everybody else would, suddenly see. So major credit to that business portfolio that was ahead of the game. And now they've really become a key integral partner. In fact, one of them has moved into our IT organization, and he's become my main IT support kind of partner in crime in all of this. So that has really been a great sort of marriage, if you will, of bringing them into the fold and getting them to sort of all these metaphors, but drink the Kool-Aid of the enterprise importance of it. And they really did luckily embrace that over time. But it took plenty of conversations to make sure that they understood that everyone had these common problems or needs that they were solving on their own.
Well, this was a tremendous session. Next time, we're just going to have to give you more time. In the
I
meantime,
know.
I invite everyone to connect with Amy.
Yes,
What a
please do.
great person to network with. And we will be joining you in the next session, a panel discussion that we'll be having at the top of the hour. And again, we'll be looking more at, let's see, what is the next session going to be about? It's going to be talking about mastering your DAM workflows from chaos to calm. So we'll see how that works. Anyway, thank you all, and we'll see you at the top of the hour. Thanks, Amy. Great job.
Thank you, John.